Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. I hope you're all doing very well this evening. We're going to be talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's dream Strikeforce. We'll be talking about this trending Delo story. But I am a little bit late because I've been out on the street clapping the NHS as we do every Thursday night at 8 p.m. So thanks to everyone who does that. It's inspiring, isn't it? And it makes you feel good at a time where it's a very weird time, isn't it? But let's get into it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's dream Strikeforce. Now, during this week, we've had, for the last few weeks, we've had this story about Harry Kane, which may come back, but I think maybe has run out of bounds. Solskjaer doesn't want to spend that amount of money on a striker. But many United fans and many journalists will still talk about Solskjaer wanting a striker. But does he want a striker? Because to me, and I think to a lot of people, the dream Strikeforce is Sancho off. Ole plays with the front three. However he does it, he plays with the front three. Whether he plays one holding midfielder or two holding midfielders, he plays with the front three. Sancho on the right, Rashford on the left, Martial down the middle. Now we've heard so-called ex-pros say brilliant things like Marcus Rashford's a forward, that's where he plays. The stats don't lie in relation to Rashford and Martial this season, and I can talk to you about times this season where we lost to Newcastle, where we lost to Bournemouth, where we lost to Burnley, where we lost to Watford, and Ole was perilously close to the sack. But when you look at the statistical analysis around Manchester United, Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford this season, you start to realise that there is no way Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is looking to bring in a player to remove one of those two. This season started off really well with Martial up front, Rashford to the left. About 3 games in, Martial got injured. For those 6 games that Martial missed Premier League games, Rashford played up front and scored 2 goals in 6 games. Martial returned for the game at Carrow Road against Norwich, and Marcus Rashford went on to score 10 goals in 13 games before he got injured in January. 10 goals in 13 games he scored off the left wing. Yes, some of them were penalties, and someone will say he's a penalty stat, whatever. But for a left-sided player to score 10 goals in 13 games between the Norwich game in October and the back injury in January, that's pretty good going. And that's Premier League games. That's not the Carabao Cup worldie he scored against Chelsea. That's Premier League games. From the left-hand side, he scored 10 goals in 13 games. You're not looking for anybody else in that position. Anthony Martial, 11 goals in 22 Premier League games. That's a goal every other game in a team that we know has been bereft of creativity. In a team that has only had Bruno for a month, hasn't had Pogba all season. There's been Lingard, Pereira or Mata behind him, and he still manages to score a goal every other game. Without penalties as well, I might add. So Anthony Martial, a goal every other game in the Premier League, 11 goals in 22. If he played the full 38 games, he wouldn't be far off 20 goals in the Premier League, which is very, very good standard. And in a Manchester United side, it's a very, very good standard to have. But what this shows Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and what this shows Manchester United is that Rashford's not a number 9. 2 goals in 6 games. Some would say, well, it's 1 every 3. It's not great. 11 in 22 is 1 every other game. But 10 goals in 13 from the left-hand side for Marcus Rashford demonstrates the ability that he has in that position, and that is his position. And we've heard him speaking about that recently. But Anthony Martial is definitely a number 9 you can build the team around. Interestingly enough, from those 22 games that Marcus Rashford... the interesting thing as well is they've both been injured this season. Your thoughts on Liverpool rejecting getting Werner, says Zala Ahmed. I didn't even know that they had rejected getting Werner. So that is quite interesting to me. But I just want to say as well, big shout out. You might have seen the change on the thumbnails. I think you'll have seen that we've got a new set around me as well in relation to the overlay and everything like that. Bottom right hand corner, that's a link into our... You can't click it, but that's a little bit of a glimpse of our website that we've got. But big shout out to the Draughty Devil as well. Again, for the little bit of change. But I'm a big fan of the thumbnails and the new thumbnails. And I'm a big fan of the set that we've got now as well. So thanks for that. Love your channel. Shout out, says Yishal. Sky Sports are reporting about Timo Werner to Liverpool. I've heard that Willian might be going to Liverpool. We'll talk about the topical stuff in a minute. Remind me about that. But what I want to say is that I really do think that when you look at the situation with Rashford and Martial, they both weirdly played 22 games in the Premier League. And obviously we've been on lockdown, and obviously Martial would have played more games if we'd have carried on with the Premier League in March to now. But the way it finished on lockdown, meant that they've both played 22 games in the Premier League this season, because obviously Martial got injured around September time and missed 6 games, and then Rashford's missed a few games as well with his back injury, which accounts for about 6 games from January to middle of March. So they both played 22 games this season. And in those 22 games, Marcus Rashford's got 14 goals and Anthony Martial's got 11 goals. Obviously, Rashford's got penalties there, but he's still doing it from the left-hand side. I don't know whether... It's a weird thing with United. Is it easier to score goals from the left wing than it is up front? And part of me thinks that in some ways it probably is, but it won't be if we've got Bruno and Pogba coming back. But of more interest is, over those 22 games, how many points have we accrued? So with Anthony Martial, we've accrued 30... with Marcus Rashford, 34 points in 22 games. Anthony Martial, 36 points in 22 games. And that will be from the crossover. Obviously, they've played a lot of games together, but we've been better without Rashford, slightly by 2 points than we were without Martial, and that is because I think that's because of Bruno. Rashford's not even played with Bruno yet, whereas Martial over the last few weeks has. So I think that's benefited him. But I do think that Solskjaer's dream strike force, the stats back it up. Obviously, they do there. Rashford is the perfect left winger. I thought he was the best left winger in the world for those 3 months. Martial has been a fantastic striker as this season, and the whole is the right wing. And all this talk of, we need a Harry Kane or anything like that, I think it's massively disrespectful. And I think that we are all guilty of it. We all sort of want a new toy, don't we? We get you get Castle Grayskull for Christmas, and then next year you want Action Man. I mean, I'm going back into the 80s there, but you get a PS4 for Christmas, and next year you want a PS5. That's probably a bad example because the PS5 will be better than a PS4. But you get a PS4, and then the next year you want an Xbox. It's not necessarily the right thing to do. And Manchester United don't need to go and get a striker that's going to kick Anthony Martial out the team. Because I think Anthony Martial and Rashford actually work well together. And I think Sancho will work well with them. And I think that will be and is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's dream strike force. There it is. That's what I feel it is. Sancho's the best fit, says Tiger. And that's where Alberto says it's the first live I've seen in weeks. Much love, Mark. Well, much love to all who are tuning in. But that is where I think Manchester United are looking at a striker, and this is why I think Ighalo may well be the right sort of person to keep at the club. Since Liverpool don't want Werner, would you want him? Says Salah Ahmed. And Kelt Helsland says, hi Mark, we only need 2 players, Tonali for the future. We can get him for cheap because his club is struggling and he's the next Pirlo. He's ready to be a key player in 2 seasons. And Sancho, says Kelt Helsland. And Rashford wins a lot of the penalties he takes, says Sagan Williams. I got no problem with him taking the penalties and scoring the penalties. I tell you what, though, I do like those 2 players. I'd be very happy if we had a summer of Tonali and Sancho. I mean, I've got both of them on my Manchester United FIFA career mode, and I bought Tonali in season 3. And look, it's only FIFA, but he's a very good player potentially, and I think he is the sort of player that Manchester United should be looking at. Whether you could get him out of Italy, I don't know, but I'd certainly applaud it. Let's have a look at some of the topical stuff, though. There is some talk that PSG want to sign Diego Dalot, who, it's trending on Twitter. Dalot is trending on Twitter because of this PSG story. Very slow day, I think, Thursday. And I don't know. We were talking about Dalot, and we were talking about whether we would want him to go. And I think with Dalot, if we could get decent money, I would let him go. Wan-Bissaka is basically the best right back in Europe as far as I'm concerned. And I know Trent Alexander-Arnold scores loads of assists and he likes pregnant women and whatever, but Wan-Bissaka for me is the best right back in Europe because he's defensively brilliant. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is a brilliant attack. He's the best attacking right back in the world, I think, Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I think Wan-Bissaka is the best defensive right back in the world. And I don't think Trent Alexander-Arnold can become the best defensive right back in the world, but I think Wan-Bissaka can improve massively going forward. So for me, I wouldn't swap Wan-Bissaka for Trent Alexander-Arnold is what I'm trying to say. Although I totally respect that 80% of people would say Trent's a better player. But I'm happy with Wan-Bissaka. You need an understudy in case he gets injured, but I think Dalot doesn't fit that bill. I don't know whether we look at Williams can do it because he's right-footed. I don't know whether we look at Ethan Laird coming through. I don't know whether we look at bringing in a right back who's just happy to be a right back at Manchester United and not play that much. But if you can get decent money for Delot, then I would say let him go. I would, but harsh as it sounds. Rashford and Martial are good players, but not enough to score goals. You need strikers like Cole and York, Van Nistelrooy. They are not good to break down top leagues in Europe, says Zane. Zane, I don't think you need to worry about that too much because you support Arsenal, and the closest you're going to get to Europe is when you're watching Champions League football on a Wednesday night. If you watch it, because the reality is over 22 games this season, so 44 games collectively. Martial and Rashford have played 44 games in the Premier League this season, and they've scored 25 goals between. So that's a goal. That's more than a goal a game between them. 44 games, 25 goals combined. So I ain't got any problems with Martial and Rashford. I think they'll get better and better. And I think now that they've got, we've not seen Martial and Rashford play with Bruno yet. We've seen Martial play with Bruno. We haven't seen Martial and Rashford play with Bruno. So that's going to be even better. So I've got no worries about them. To all those who are fasting, says Ekmar Umar Ramadan Karim. And Luke Valentine says, Zane, didn't we beat PSG? Arsenal fans are a joke. There you go. Another little bit of topical stuff. And we've had plenty of decent defenders, said Bog Milster. If Rashford, striker, Martial and Werner. I mean, I don't know. Is there any truth in this Timo Werner story? Because the last thing I read about Werner, and I appreciate, you can miss social media for an hour, go live and not know anything. But the last thing I saw was that Sky Sports were saying about Timo Werner that Liverpool have been told to sign him for 53 million before his release clause runs out in June. I don't know the complexities of Timo Werner's release clause, but I would take him at Manchester United. Despite what I just said, I would take Timo Werner at Manchester United because I think the quality of Rashford and Martial is undisputed. And I think if you brought Timo Werner to the club, you've then got a very interesting scenario where Werner can play off the left, he can play off the right, and he can play down the middle. Where Rashford plays off the left and up the middle, where Martial can play down the middle or off the left, and Sancho can play off the left or the right. So if you got Sancho and you got Werner, I think happy days. But I would love Manchester United to sign Timo Werner, but I've always expected him to go to Liverpool. Trent Singh says, Get French Football have just tweeted Madrid want Pogba and Camavinga this summer. Should we be worried? Well, I did a news story this morning about Pogba, and AS were saying that Real Madrid want Camavinga and don't want Pogba. So, the Pogba thing's going to run and run. All I can do about Sancho, all I can do about Grealish, and all I can do about Pogba is tell you what I was told. Sancho and Grealish was from a source who's a journalist, and the Pogba stuff was from Manchester United Football Club themselves, who've said that on 3 separate occasions Pogba will stay at Manchester United. Solskjaer said it a month ago. So I expect Pogba to stay. I just think with Pogba, like I said this morning, there's 3 scenarios. 1, he goes, which I don't think he will. 2, he stays, but he's going to stay for a year and then go, which I think is the worst scenario. Or 3, he signs a new contract and stays long term. And I think the most likely one is that he will stay for a year and then go, which causes more disruption for us for the next 12 months, to be honest. But I don't want that to happen. Zane, Mark, Aubameyang and Martinelli will score more, says Zane Miasi. Well, Aubameyang might score more. He'll probably be doing it at a different club, won't he? So I don't know where he's going yet, so I can't answer that. I don't know about Martinelli, to be honest with you. I know Flex and DT were talking about it at lunchtime. Really good video. I really enjoyed it. The lockdown. Flex and DT were talking on the... you can check it out on the channel. Really good conversation. And obviously we've had this meeting with UEFA today. And Oliver Knight says opinions on the lack of aerial threat up front. Well, you know what? Just before I talk about the UEFA thing and how it benefits United on the Champions League football next season, can I just say that the lack of aerial threat doesn't bother me as much as it bothers some people. I think Erling Haaland would have been a really good signing, but not because he's good in the air and tall. That would have been a bonus. He's ridiculously fast and he's good on the ground. So Haaland would have been the combination of everything, because you get somebody who's tall but also fast and good on the ground. Of course, Martial's not very good in the air. I don't think Rashford's very good in the air, and I doubt Sancho's very good in the air. Is Ighalo good in the air? Come see, come saw. I don't think he's brilliant, but I don't think he's terrible. But do United need somebody who's good in the air? I don't think so. Do Man City have somebody good in the air? Aguero, Jesus, Sterling, Bernardo Silva. They absolutely... Being good in the air is almost a disadvantage at Manchester City because that's not the way they play. Do Liverpool have somebody who's good in the air? I mean, Firmino's not bad, but Sane and Salah. Bloody hell. Don't worry, Leroy Sane is not signed for Man City, and who the hell is Mala? I've just mixed up Mane and Salah. They're not good in the air either. So the best teams in the world, you could say, don't have people who are good in the air. And I think, is it not a bit of a relic? Is it not a bit of a Mourinho thing to have a striker who's good in the air? Do you need a striker who's good in the air? You know, I think if you're in the last 5 minutes and you need somebody who's good in the air, do you not just put Harry Maguire up front and then bring another centre-back on, like a Lindelof, to play with Twansebi or something? I don't think you need... That doesn't need to be part of the plan structure for Manchester United, is what I'm trying to say. It's not part of the structure for Man City. It's not part of the structure for Liverpool. Was it ever part of the structure for Manchester United? Well, you know, we had Sheringham, who was quite good in the air, that we could throw on in 99. In 08, did we have anyone great in the air? I mean, Ronaldo was good in the air, but it wasn't really his thing. I don't think we need somebody who's particularly good in the air. I don't. But that's just my opinion. As good as Martial and Rashford are, having another striker in the squad would keep them hungry for their spot, says Ninja Smurf United. Oh, totally. I would like us to bring a striker, but I don't want to... And Van Dijk's not a striker, Hugo Howard. And Liverpool do have players who are good in the air, but we're talking about a striking option. Van Dijk spends his time at the back. And... Juventus' greatest of all time is the best in the air world has ever seen, says George Kyle. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka slide tackling is not viable in the long run. Leads to throw-ins. It only works when open opposition has more possession. Possessional sense is important against counter-attacking teams. Top defenders do not tackle much, says Darshan Yu. Yeah, but I think the strength of the Aaron Wan-Bissaka slide tackle is that if he doesn't put that slide tackle in, he's been skinned. And people would say, well, if he didn't get skinned in the first place, he wouldn't have to do it. But these players who are skinning him are good players. They would skin any fullback. But what Wan-Bissaka has in his arsenal is the recovery speed, and that's why he slide tackles. Because if he doesn't slide tackle, the player's gone. So it's a unique part of his game. Most fullbacks would get skinned by the skill that beats Wan-Bissaka, but most fullbacks can't recover the way that he does. So I agree with you that going to ground is not... You know, it isn't. If you go to ground and make a last-ditch tackle, you shouldn't have to do that in the first place. But I think it's a unique thing to Wan-Bissaka's game. And it's a recovery tackle. Mark, we're about to sign Partey while you stick with Matic and Fred, says Not Sure. You're not. You're not about to sign Thomas Partey. You're dreaming. And I think that also in relation to this situation then that I wanted to talk about, which is the UEFA situation... So UEFA have met today and they're saying that it will be down to the individual clubs to decide what they do with Champions League and Europa League promotion for next season if they don't complete this season. Well, look, hello everybody. I mean, I did that about 20 minutes ago, but hello. The Bundesliga is looking to start on May the 9th. May the 9th. That's like less than 20 days away. And they are just waiting for government approval. Now, Germany seem to be handling this breakout better than any European country. And they're going to get the Bundesliga back before anybody else. We'll be doing Jadon Sancho watch-alongs, don't worry. In fact, I'm going to order a Bundesliga top tomorrow. I just haven't decided which team because it's going to be live football. You know, I'll stop at Belarusian football, but any top European league that comes back, I'll watch it. French, German, Italy, Spain, Portuguese. I'll watch it. Even the Scottish league, I'd watch it. So I will be watching that. But that, you know, that's a bit of a positivity because I think what will happen is if the German Bundesliga comes back, the Premier League will be absolutely desperate to come back because it's the richest league in the world and it makes the most money. So they'll be desperate to get it back. So I do still have positivity that we'll get ours back. But Gary Neville said today something along the lines of it'll be miraculous if we get it back in June. So, you know, on one hand you might be positive, on one hand you might not be positive. But what UEFA have said is, because the Belgian league has been suspended, and I think the Dutch league is going to follow suit, is they're saying if you do suspend your league and void it, then it will be down to the individual leagues to decide who goes into Europe for next year, but they want them to do it on sporting merit. And we'll be talking about that in a moment, what sporting merit is. Talk of Pogba to Newcastle. Any news on that, says James Griffin? No chance. Get French Football tweeted again. Zinedine Zidane is intent on forcing through a deal for Pogba this summer, according to L'Equipe. There you go. And why don't we sign Bellingham and loan him to Dortmund? I think we should sign Sancho. Pogba should leave if he wants, and let's grow together, says Juan. I've got no fear if Pogba leaves Manchester United. I'm not scared of that. I know that like Rance and some of you would be absolutely gutted if he did, but and I understand that. But if Pogba wants to go, I'd say go. I'm not scared of Pogba going. I think he will stay, and I don't know in what scenario he will stay, but I do think he will stay. But if he does go, am I crying about that? No. I mean, it's honesty at the end of the day, isn't it? That is our website in the bottom left-hand corner. If you want to check it out, unitedstand.com. It's fantastic. If you think this whole surrounding me is lovely and clean, which it is by the Draughty Devil, the website's brilliant. So check out the website at theunitedstand.com. But, and smash a like on the video. I think the graphics have gone up a gear again today with Draughty, and I love the thumbnail as well. So love it. But going back to what I was talking about there, so UEFA have said that if the Premier, let's say the Premier League, but it can be any league in Europe, is voided because you can't finish it, then they're saying that the teams that go into the Champions League next year will be for the Premier League to decide, or whatever league voids their season, but it must be done on sporting merit. And there's a couple of options with sporting merit, but they basically both favour Manchester United. Now, one of them's been spoken about is coefficient points. Well, I think we're third on coefficient points behind Liverpool and Man City. We're third, and then Arsenal are fourth. So it would be City, Liverpool, Man United and Arsenal into the Champions League. No Spurs, no Chelsea, no Leicester. That would be weird, but it's an option. The other option, which I think is probably more favoured, is the points per game option, where you look at the points per game on average this season. Again, we would be not in there, but we would be in there. We would be fifth behind, obviously, Liverpool, Man City, Leicester, Chelsea. We would be fifth. That's not Champions League football, obviously, but if Man City get their ban, and I think Man City will have to have a year ban. I know they've got a 2-year ban, but how are they overturning this court case when we're in lockdown? I don't see Man City overturning this before. They might do, and fifth might not be good enough, but if they do it that way, and fifth is Champions League football, we get it. Now, I don't like that way. I hate the other way, even though it benefits us. The coefficient thing, how are we third? Because we won the Europa League however many years ago? Because I think it must be based on a number of years. I don't think that's fair on Leicester or Chelsea. I really don't. But I don't think this way is fair on Sheffield United, because Sheffield United, if they win their game in hand, they'd be fifth. But if you do it on average points, well, you can never have 3 points as your average points unless you've won every single game. Even Liverpool don't have a 3-point average game. So Sheffield United can't get the 3 points to go above us, but their game in hand is Aston Villa. And if you're doing it on average points, well, we already know some people have got harder games that they've already played, which will bring their average points down, and easier run-ins. So I don't like that either. But I suppose you've got to find something, because my stance has always been, I don't care when we finish this Premier League. But what is abundantly clear to me now is that that's not an option. And it's becoming very clear, and nobody said this, but that's clearly not an option. Remember, I and many of you said, look, if we have to wait till Christmas to finish the league, we come back and finish the league. We're now starting to see that this is not an option. There is a deadline. And I didn't know this, but I think we can all tell there is a deadline now. UEFA and FIFA or whoever, they want this season's done by the end of August. Whether that's Champions League, Premier League, La Liga, whatever. September the 1st, I think they're looking to start next season. Whether it starts then or not, that's what they're looking to do. So I don't think it's possible to say now, which is what I've always said, I don't care when we come back and we finish this league. I think we're now living in a deadline of end of July or end of August to get the Premier League done. So in that scenario, I think everything's on the table. Voiding the season, finishing the season, I'd say it's 50-50 at the moment. But if you avoid the season, I definitely think they're going to go for one of those two options we've just said there. either where you are in the league, which is obviously where we are in the league, and that doesn't help Sheffield United, or this coefficient thing, which I just don't think is right, but it will be for the Premier League to decide. Zayn Miassi says, Mark, Pogba might join Newcastle as his agent loves money. He's greedy like Ozil, the two most overrated players ever. Zayn does not like Paul Pogba or Ozil. Do you think City might get off due to the economic impact the lockdown has had, says Ninja Smurf United? I think Man City will throw everything they can at trying to get out of it, but I don't know. I mean, what would you do? What do you want to happen? Void or complete the season? Not sure. Where do you think we're going to finish in the league if we sign Partey, Upamecano and Jovic on loan? We signed Aubameyang, Lacazette and Pepe without Champions League football. Not sure. Are you basically just a burner account for Zayn to get two lots of accounts going? Because there's similarities with Pratness here. There really is. What do you think of Pogba to Inter rumours, says Random Z. I can't see Inter being able to afford him. And Void, says Hamza. I just want to see what people think about what we should do, because I think if we end up in a Void situation, then you end up with having to make one of these very difficult decisions. I've got to be honest, the whole Void thing for me is, I've never liked it, and I know it means Liverpool won't win the league, and I know for some people that's reason enough, and I get it, but I've never been a fan of it, if I'm honest with you. Somebody just said they're cooking with Goldbridge. I can announce a non-football thing here, and we're long enough in the show for me to do this. Going for Goldbridge, or Mark Goldbridge, whatever, I've been asked for years to do Cooking with Goldbridge, and I've actually filmed my first episode of Cooking with Goldbridge. It's a 9 p.m. It's going up at 9 p.m. on my personal channel. I've dropped a link in the video description. All you've got to do if you want to watch it is click that link, subscribe yourself to the channel, and then you'll know where to find it at 9 p.m. You may even get one of those notifications if YouTube gets its arse into gear. But yeah, you'll see what the first dish is, and I'll talk you through how to make it. I've even put the ingredients in the video description. So I'm looking forward to see what people think. And it has got, when I'm cooking, it has got football references in it. You'll see what I mean. Void the season and get Spurs relegated, and I'll become a United supporter for one season, says Say. On what planet is Spurs relegated part of it? Don't void, says Neve, and Neve Duggan. What happens to the Europa League and the Champions League? Is it also voided, says Inan. Well, that's easier to void, isn't it? It's a cup competition. You can void a cup competition. There's not really any ramifications for that. So I think they'll try and get it completed, but I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know whether they're going to host it in a country where you can play football and invite everybody over. Void, too many variables, says Ken Shambles, and void league and the play of the Europa, says Brandel. And if they void, Liverpool will be awarded the title, says David Trickett. Well, that can't happen. That can't happen. You cannot void the league and give it to Liverpool. That would be a disgrace. That would be wrong. I don't care how far ahead you are in a running race. If you don't pass the finishing line, you don't win the race. So I don't agree with that at all. But if Liverpool fans are moaning, I want the league to be completed. And if we complete the league, you're going to win the title. So it's not that I'm like, oh, don't give them the league at any cost. I just don't think they should get the league if it's voided. But for everybody who says void the league, I think it's such a bad thing to do. I do. I know we've not spoke about it for a while, but I think it's such a bad thing to do, to void the league. I think it's such a bad message to go out. We've never voided the top league in English football history, apart from for World Wars. So to void it because we've missed 3 or 4 months of football because of a very bad pandemic. This is why, for me, why can't we just come back and complete it in October? Like, why do we have to have a cut-off point for something? I just think it does massive issues in the future. You know, imagine in 5 years' time, you know, Man United are top of the league by 20 points in March, and there's talk of a world war or another coronavirus. We're going to be sat there thinking, not only could we be going back into lockdown, but we could be having this whole season voided. It just puts an uncertainty into football that we've never had before. And I don't really like that uncertainty. So I'm all for completing the league, but if you void the league, the solutions for Champions League football become a farce. They do. Oh, United and Arsenal are in it because they've got the most points over the last few years. Bollocks. That's a load of crap. United are in it because City are banned, and City and Sheffield United aren't going to get their 3 points that they'd probably get against Villa to put us not in it. It's just not fair. I think the only way is to do it is to complete it. Having the season completed within a month would be great to watch. Plenty of watch-alongs to catch up on, says Ninja Smurf United. I mean, look, you know what? If we get some football back, yabba dabba do. It's great. But I think I'm not even thinking of it from that point of view at the moment. I'm just thinking of it from a bigger picture. I just think that we should complete it. But I'm also realistic here. You can't complete football if you can't play in June and July because your country is absolutely in lockdown. So we are running out of time on this, and decisions are going to have to be made. And at the moment, I've always felt very confident that we would finish the league. As I tweeted at lunchtime, for the first time since we've been in lockdown, I'm about 50-50 whether we'll get the season done. I always thought void was just a sensationalist statement. And I'm now starting to see that we could be heading that way. Abanaf Praji says, Mourinho bought Sanchez and destroyed Martial's second half of the season. He destroyed his World Cup and destroyed his morale. Oli uplifted him. He raised him up. Yes, he did. And Sean Ryan says, a compact season would be great chance for the youth to play important games and see what players are really up for it. Great content, bro. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. And the Swedish League is set to start on June the 25th, says Smutty. But has Sweden even gone into lockdown? Because you weren't even in lockdown a few weeks ago, were you? Will there ever be a United Stand app, says Adrian. I don't know. I don't know Carabao Cup next year, says Dara Brown. I wouldn't miss it. I really wouldn't miss it. And Partey for 50 million, Koulibaly for 60 million, Sancho for 90 million, Adama Traore for 50 million, potentially fight for second next season, and with 2 transfers of Kane and Chilwell champions, says Abdullah Mohammed. I really hoped you were going to say you were an Arsenal fan, Abdullah, because I don't like your transfer plans. Partey I like, Koulibaly okay, Sancho yes, but why would you need Adama Traore and Sancho? They play in the same position. And I wouldn't want Kane. So I agree with you on some of it. You've got me about 60%, but not 100%. And Oli is a great manager, like Sir Alex, has the foundations right. With time and the right team around him, he can be a success, says Sam Neem. I must just, I wasn't going to bring this up, but I must just pull this up. I saw on Twitter today, I saw a clip. It's all right, I've got very tight, I can even show you. Got very tight Calvin Klein boxer shorts on, and it's almost making me get stomachache how tight it is round my nuts. I'm sorry to be rude, but we all have these problems. They're very nice and tight and snug, but they are getting a bit tight around my balls. I'll be honest with you. And anyway, I saw something on Twitter today, and it was a clip of Rance talking about Sir Alex Ferguson, and it was a very short clip, probably 15 seconds max, maybe even 10. And he was basically saying, he sounded like he was doing a Roy Keane impression as well, because he was like, oh no, don't tell me. And he was like, basically, Sir Alex Ferguson was not a tactical genius, and he wasn't even a great coach. And that's all I read. And I even, I get on with Rance. I even quote tweeted it and went, bloody hell, Roy Keane's possessed Rance. He's talking absolute crap. But then in my reply, somebody said it's out of context. Listen to the full clip. So I listened to the full clip surrounding it, and what he was basically saying is that Sir Alex Ferguson wasn't a great tactical coach, and he wasn't a great coach, but he was a fantastic manager, and he surrounded himself with great coaches, and that's why he kept changing them. Which, actually, I disagree with, but it's a fair opinion. And it shows you how these haters go and clip tiny little bits and then tweet them off and go, look at this dickhead. And actually, it's totally out of context. But it did get me thinking when you said that about Ollie being a great coach or whatever. Sir Alex Ferguson is the greatest manager in sports history. And Sir Alex Ferguson broke the Rangers-Celtic axes in the 80s and won a European trophy with Aberdeen and won the league title. Look at Scottish footballs ever since. It's always been Celtic and Rangers. At Manchester United, he rebuilt the whole club from top to bottom. I think in the latter years, as he got older, he became more of a hands-on manager, hands-off manager, and more about the management of players, and left the coaching to others. But you can't have done all he's done in his career and not be a tactical genius. genius and a fantastic coach. So I do disagree with Rance on that, but I thought, for anybody who'd seen the shorter clip, it's bollocks because there's a bigger context picture there. And there are people that actually can have a grown-up conversation and say, you know what, he's actually got a fair point there. But, it is silly. But it leads nicely into what Fred's been talking about, because Fred has basically said that the best youth player coming through is James Garner, which is interesting because I think he's had a very good season in the reserves or the under-23s. Scored a lot of goals, done very, very well, not really had his chance in the first team, but everyone goes Greenwood because Greenwood's fantastic. But I think Garner is potentially, as he fills out a bit more physically, very young himself. I mean, how old's Garner? I think Garner's only 18, 19, isn't he? So he's got a great future ahead of him, and Fred's talking about him. He also spoke about Michael Carrick and the importance of Carrick in his game and in the midfielders' game. I mean, Michael Carrick, whether he's a great coach or not, a bit like Solskjaer as a striker, you can see the improvement in Martial as a striker over this season, having had the summer with Ollie. And I think midfielders like McTominay and Fred will improve massively because they've got someone like Carrick in their ear, who was the most studious midfielder we've ever had. The way he protected the back four, read the game, saw the space. If he can get into the heads of McTominay and Fred, they will be better players because of it. But he also spoke about Solskjaer in a very glowing way as well. So look, there's a lot of positivity around Manchester United at the moment. How long have you been wearing them, Mark? Ralph Lauren, not CK, says Kevin O'Keefe. This pair only on fresh today. Liquid One, latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Thank you very much for that. Norwegian Collector. Every club wants to finish the season due to prize money when the season ends. They wouldn't get that if it is voided, and most clubs need it now, says Norwegian Collector. Well, we don't know the ramifications of what happens if the season is voided in relation to prize money. We don't know that. We just don't know what's going to happen with that. But that will be a factor. But I guarantee you, if the Bundesliga... I don't know why I'm pointing at you. It's not your fault. If the Bundesliga... See, I'll do that instead. If the Bundesliga... I'm stroking a cat, an invisible cat. I'm an evil doctor now. If the Bundesliga comes back in early May, the Premier League ain't getting voided. Not without a fight. But the government of this country will decide. And that is the issue. Because the government of Germany will decide if the Bundesliga comes back. And the German government is in a far better situation around coronavirus than the UK government. So the Premier League may knock on the door of the British government and say, we want to start the Premier League back. This is what we're going to do. The same as Germany, they're already doing. But the British government might say, nah, you're not doing it. Which is financial. But I guarantee you, if the Bundesliga comes back in May, the Premier League will fight tooth and nail to get theirs back. And a lot of it will be down to the players and how much effort they want to do, how hungry they are to come back. I mean, you've heard people like Rooney a few weeks ago say, we felt unsafe, we were being used like guinea pigs. Will some of them be saying that again? Or will some of them want to get out there and play? I'd want to get out there and play, to be honest, but it's a personal choice. As soon as it's viably safe to do it, I would. Alex Ferguson is the greatest coach ever, but Pep Guardiola, player, the best footballer, his team at Barca with Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, was the greatest club football of all time. Even greater than the Invincibles, says Zayn Miasi. Avis says, my name is Avis. I have to start fasting tomorrow because of my religion. From sunrise to sunset for 30 days. Any advice? I can't give you any advice because that's not my religion. And I can't give you any advice about fasting because I've never done it. All I would say is that it's obviously very important to people. And I know people, I've worked with people who do it. And I know it's very difficult, like especially through the summer, because obviously there's more light hours, and I think that's what it's to do with, if I recall correctly. So I don't think if you do it properly, you can even drink water and stuff. It's very hard. I'll tell you what, it's not my religion, but it's very hard to do. I get a headache if I don't have a drink of water for 3 hours. So it's certainly difficult, but a lot of people do it, and I'm sure there's a lot of resources and people you can talk to about it. But all the best with it. I wish you well. Julian Lee says, if the UK government says no, fly the teams to Germany and have the Premier League pay German government massive money and watch the UK government do the biggest U-turn ever. Well, Julian, I started reading that straight away and I thought you might not be far wrong. You may not be far wrong on that, because remember the UFC were going to have theirs in April on an island that they were going to rent. So there are ways around it. And I think it's in everybody's interest to get it back. But I would I would be interested to see how it's going to happen. I still remain positive that we will see Premier League football back before August. And we will complete our season. And I know that means that our biggest rival will win the league, but I genuinely think we will finish top 4 outright. I think we are going to come back from this break and be a very, very good side with a fit Marcus Rashford and a fit Paul Pogba and a team that's very together and focused. I think we'll see an even better Manchester United after this lockdown than we saw just before it. So I want to see that. I want to see that, and I hope that we do see that. Graham Howe says he's got some toilet roll with the Arsenal crest on it. And Trent or Aaron Wan-Bissaka? For me, it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka all the way, says Bubby. I've already said that. And just put all football around Europe into Germany, says Abdul. What MUFC footballer will you be most excited to see back? Says Adrian. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of United players that excite me. Martial, Bruno Fernandes, 2. But I'm excited to see Pogba back, and I mean, flair players are where it's at for me. I mean, I like Luke Shaw, I like Harry Maguire, I like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I like De Gea. But it's the flair players that I like. And I like Fred as well, but it's the flair players I like. So Rashford, Martial, Pogba, Bruno, they're the ones that... Dan James to a certain extent, although I think my love of Dan James is really clouded by my alternate reality that I'm now playing every day on my FIFA career mode. I mean, I'm on season 3. Dan James is sort of an enigma of my team. So... yeah, I don't know whether Dan James in real life matches up to Dan James on my FIFA career mode. But, yeah, they're the players that excite me. And most of all, it's to see that Rashford-Martial combination playing with Bruno and Pogba. Or seeing Bruno playing with Pogba. There are things there. And then hopefully, when we get... I mean, look, I think the realistic path for United, and I can't give you many realisms, but if I was predicting a 5-step path for United, right? We come back... we get top 4. We sign Jadon Sancho, and next season Pogba stays. We bring in another midfielder to give us some depth, and then next season we finish 3rd and have a good couple of cup runs. And I think that's a 5-step plan. And forget the midfield. So what did I say? We come back, we play really well, we get top 4. We sign Jadon Sancho. Paul Pogba stays, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer stays, and then next season we get 3rd in the league. Because I don't think we can catch Liverpool and Man City next year. And that's my 5-step plan, and I think those things will happen. So remember them, whatever you want, clip the video, put it in the live video comments. We'll come back, get top 4, we'll sign Jadon Sancho, Paul Pogba will stay, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will stay, and next season we'll finish 3rd. And that will be a fair 12-month progress. And I would be happy with that. And I think those are the things we're going to achieve. Of course, some of those things might slip away, but I think those 5 things are all achievable. And that excites me. That excites me. And that's progress. And that's all we ever wanted. Not sure. I missed our old great self, Arsenal and Man United rivalry. How do we allow these pretenders to catch us and could overtake us in the next 10 years? Oil money has ruined the beautiful football. Well, look, I do believe you. I do agree with you on that. I think that I would love to see Man United and Arsenal back as the 2 best clubs in England, because it wouldn't be Liverpool and it wouldn't be City. Mark, are you still using Soccerbox email? Sent you a message Tuesday night about idea for a show. I am, John. We just get quite a few, so I'll go through it and I'll get a reply to you. And Aisha makes a good point. Says, if the season is voided, United will be in the Champions League for global mass interest, Liverpool for being league leaders, City for currently beating a legal challenge, and Norwich for having the least yellow and red cards. Imagine that. Mark, we will get Partey and have Arteta. We will finish third, says MUFC. In seriousness, I think if Arsenal got anywhere near 5th next season, that would be a great season for you. And I can't see Liverpool dominating the EPL next season as they did this year, especially if it's voided. They would be burnt out their motivation. If Liverpool got the league taken away from them, they may do even better next year, even if that's actually possible. I just think that if Sir Alex Ferguson had this happen to me, so if United were top, and it was their first ever title, and it was robbed away from them because of this pandemic, and next season I would put my house on us winning the league, because he'd be just so focused, and the players would. It could go the other way. Evdop says, just finish the league properly, then there isn't any complaints or excuses of who should have finished where, and it's fair and square. Exactly. That's why it's the best way of doing it, isn't it? Without a shadow of a doubt. Shahin says, Zayn, Arsenal are broke. Well, I mean, look, I said that Arsenal wouldn't sign Pepe last summer, and somebody clipped it. Arsenal fans clipped it up and tried to make a meme out of it. But what they did it out of context, like I said, because when I said that, it was because I'd been told that by the AFTV lads. They said, we won't be signing Pepe, we can't afford him. I don't know what Arsenal's finances are. I just went based on that. Looking at it again this summer, I would say that they're not going to sign Partey because they've asked their players to take a pay cut. I mean, look, if you're Xhaka, right, and you've taken a pay cut, and then in 3 months' time, the season starts, you finish it, you've had 3 or 4 months of a pay cut, and then when the season finishes, they go and sign Thomas Partey in the midfield. I'd be taking legal advice against Arsenal. I'd be like, hold on a minute, you've had us all taking a pay cut because you're in financial difficulties, and then as soon as the transfer window opens, you go out and spend 45 million on Partey. Screw that. So I'm not saying it definitively, but I think if there are Premier League clubs out there getting their players to take pay cuts, how can those Premier League clubs go and sign players in 3 or 4 months' time? It would be ridiculously unfair and immoral to do it. So I feel that if a club has got their players taking pay cuts, they're not doing transfer business in the summer unless they sell first. But even then, I don't know. Are the Bruno shirts short or long? Says Songwriter94. So the Bruno t-shirt I wore this morning and yesterday morning, they're short t-shirts. They're short sleeve t-shirts. You can see my arms on them if that's what you mean. Why would Partey go to Arsenal, says Mark McKenna. Exactly. And on that bombshell. Thanks to the Draughty Devil, I'm loving everything that's going on around here. That's the website in the bottom right hand corner where you can also subscribe. I think there's a little button there. Links in the video description for my personal channel. It might be the only episode I do of it, or it could be the start of a series. But Cooking with Goldbridge, or Goldbridge Cooks, the first episode at 9 o'clock. I'm amazed at how long it is. It's half an hour long. It flew by making it. But give it a watch. Links in the video description. It goes up at 9 o'clock, but the link in the video description is the link to my channel. So you can just subscribe and wait there, or refresh, or wait for the notification if it comes through. But it's coming through. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back in the morning, of course, with the latest Manchester United news. And thank you very much for everybody watching, and have a good evening, and make sure you check out Cooking with Goldbridge. Links in the video description. I'm looking forward to watching it myself. I've only seen the edited version. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for watching.